Why, hello, folks. We got some cool news today. News that are so cool that I brought out my fancy ash to celebrate the news. And it's this hotfix right here, Warframe hotfix 31.7.2. It's not the hugest thing. We're still waiting for new content, with Veilbreaker and stuff like that. And we got some dev streams coming up at the end of the month. People like I saw people on Twitter like Megan or something just talking about being back from vacation. So people have been away. So I didn't expect anything big to drop now in the summer months anyway. But we got this hotfix and it's mostly quality of life upgrades. No new content, but it's quality of life upgrades. And I think this is a good opportunity to talk a bit about what we can sort of speculate regarding the the new management, and maybe this is a sign of things to come, showing how they're thinking, how they're going to prioritize things moving forward. I think that's the interesting discussion. So, unless you've been living under a rock, the updates are twofold, mostly. Number one, for Zariman content, for the Voidplumes, they have now made Voidplumes a team-wide pickup. So, if someone goes and picks up a Voidplume, everyone in the team gets it. That is a huge quality of life upgrade. It was created solely for the Zariman content, because those Voidplumes have been creating a lot of frustration in team play. But it doesn't just go for Voidplumes. This also counts for Syndicate medallions. And that's just sort of that just happened by itself because they're coded the same. The Voidplumes are coded as Syndicate medallions. That's probably just how it works. So if you change one, the other is going to be changed as well. So that is also now going to be the case for Syndicate missions. If someone picks up a Syndicate medallion, everyone in the team will get it. So that's actually great. That is actually great for running Syndicate missions. Some people don't want to go and pick up the medallions. Some people want to scour the entire map for them. But it's just nice to you don't have to worry about backtracking and stuff like that. If someone gets it, you won't even be able to waypoint them anymore, because why would you? Everyone in the team just got it anyway. Really good for farming Syndicate standing. And for Voidplumes, it means that if someone in the team runs off to just find Voidplumes, then at least whenever they find one, your other two teammates aren't gonna run off from the objective just to also pick it up. So hopefully you'll have more people sticking around and actually doing the objective. So we're gonna get less mission fails, and we're gonna get more Voidplumes as a team. So that's pretty good, all things considered. I like that. Now, I've seen some idiots. I'm gonna use I've seen some people on Reddit talking about oh, they should make all pickups universal now, just like they did with the Voidplumes, and I guess just like it is with Railjack. No, you do not know what you are asking for if you say that. Okay, here's what's gonna happen if they make all resource pickup universal, okay? In 99% of all missions, you are going to be running the mission solo, and your other 3 teammates are going to AFK at the spawn point. That's it. They're not going to help, because why would they? You can just load into a mission, and then you can just tab out of the game, and you'll get the resources. It is the most efficient way of playing, honestly, if you just want to do this passively. So, no. That is a garbage idea. No. There is that quote from a developer of another games from 2000 or something, 2020, saying that if given the chance, players will optimize the fun out of any game they are playing. So it is the responsibility of developers to protect players from themselves. There is some truth to that. And when I saw someone asking for all pickups to become Squad Universal, that is exactly what they are talking about. that it's going to destroy the game. So no, stop asking for that. Jesus Christ, no, that is the worst idea ever. Anyway, this is nice because this is something people have been asking for when it comes to the void plumes. People have been talking about how it is cool with a new resource and a new way of farming standing and all of that, and you can just farm as much standing as you want every day, but it is disruptive to like the squad gameplay. So this is a fix for one specific problem, and it's also the reason why they won't do this as a sort of universal thing for all resources. That's not a problem. That is working as intended. But the Zarman missions were not working as intended because some people running off and farming for void plumes was disruptive to the rest of the squad, and this is a way of mitigating that. So it's nice, and people have been talking about how this is indicative of maybe a shift of listening to feedback in a way they haven't done before, because there have been some certain issues where we've talked about, you know, stuff like universal vacuum. Why do we have to put a vacuum mod on our sentinel or our pet or whatever? Why can't we just have vacuum on everything by default? And it's just like they have refused. They have like never listened to this, and apparently this was like a Scott thing. I guess Scott hates the idea of vacuum. I don't know, and it's always resisting it. So like when Railjack first came out, the Railjacks didn't have vacuum and stuff like that. Every time they introduce new content, it doesn't have vacuum, and then we have to sort of complain until it gets vacuum, like Necromex as well, stuff like that. So universal vacuum is one of those things that like people have been asking for years. It's as a quality of life upgrade, and it's just not happening. And maybe this is sort of like a bit related to like how Steve worked and how Steve built the game. I always got the feeling that he was always hunting for the new thing. He got some sort of idea, and then he was super obsessed with making that into a reality, and then he made that into a reality, and then he wanted to move on to the next thing and the next idea. So I don't think it's so much like a game thing of like, oh, we have to pump out new content, new all the time. Don't go back and fix old stuff. It's got to be new. I think it's just how Steve worked. I think it's just how he is as a person, always hunting for that new thing. People have talked about when it came to the new war that it sort of felt like, you know, Steve was forcing himself to do it in a way where really he introduced the sentient so many years ago, and now it's like, oh, are we still doing the sentience? No, I want to move on to the new thing. I want to do Man in the Wall. I want to do eternalism and stuff like that. And maybe that's it. Maybe like the old philosophy of the game was simply that they just did not have all that much of an interest in going back and tinkering on old things and stuff like that. We're instead focusing on just moving on to new ideas and new things to entertain themselves with. So maybe this is indicative of a shift in philosophy. Who knows? That they are more willing to go back and tweak stuff that's older. That's the quality of life upgrades and stuff that people have been asking for a long time. Maybe. Could be cool. Next up, the next big thing in the in this hotfix, and why I'm walking around with Ash right now, is that they fixed the Ash and Oberon farms. Yeah! So Oberon had one part that was in Vale Proxima, which is like super high level. They moved that to Earth instead, so now Oberon is way easier to farm. And Ash, they added his components as drops in Exterminate and Volatile missions for Corpus Railjack, and also Rotation A for the defense missions, Rotation A for the survival missions. That means you no longer have to play the mission for 20 minutes for a chance at an Ash part. No, now you only need to play the mission for 5 minutes for a chance at an Ash part, and that makes a hell of a difference. Not to mention that the first 2 drops are a rotation. So you get 1 chance for an Ash part at 5 minutes, 1 chance for an Ash part at 10 minutes. So that's gonna make an exterminate missions. Jesus Christ, it's like around 5% or something. So if you just play those like passively, like, you can probably do that as void storms, right? If they are skirmish, yeah. Here, exterminate. If you play a void storm that is Corpus Railjack and it's an exterminate mission, then you have a 5% chance of getting an Ash part. So if you just play void storms to open relics and get credits and endo and other stuff, just play enough. Play enough of them and you will passively just get Ash as a byproduct, just like you do like Sevagoth, which is also just something you get passively if you play enough void storms. So Ash is no longer in the bottom tier for farming. He is obtainable again. And this, I'm gonna say, this is indicative of another maybe mentality shift. And that is like when Railjack was introduced, and we've heard these complaints many times over the years, where people talk about content islands and how content isn't necessarily linked to other content, and it's its own little thing. And you know, they dropped demos, and it's a content island, and it just exists in its own little realm, and it's not interconnected with the rest in Warframe. So, to some extent, like, these criticisms are unwarranted, because like that's just how the game works. Every planet is its own content island, if you will. There are certain things where you do integrate it, like Kuva Liches. That's pretty well integrated with just how the game functions. And you play it over very many different mission types and whatnot. And it is kind of integrated. Railjack was not when it was introduced. It was absolutely its own thing. It's even, you load into a different star chart with its different missions and different drops and different rules. And they tried with Operation Scarlet Spear to make it connected, and I thought it was super cool. I liked the event. It was a divisive event. I know that. I liked it, but it was also like sort of a nightmare for them coding-wise, and it was like just a miserable time for them, apparently. But there are good and bad ways of sort of integrating if you want people to play it. So how have they done that? How have they made people want to play Railjack? Well, they've added it as, you know, missions. You got Rising Tide, you got Call of the Tempestari, you got Deadlock Protocol. No, Deadlock Protocol isn't any Railjack in it, but Call of the Tempestari does. And New War, obviously, which requires you to have a Railjack. But that's just, you know, it's 5 minutes of Railjack in that quest. So it's a bit moot. It's basically just, it forces you to play Railjack content so that you can play New War. A good thing they've done, I guess, is they add like the Lich, the final encounter with the Lich, or your Sister of Parvos. That's a Railjack mission, so that sort of feels a bit more integrated. But it's over in like 5 minutes or so. So, in a way, I feel like they sort of gave up on trying to get people to play Railjack. They couldn't figure out any really good ways of doing it, and the last sort of push that they tried, and I've made a video before about this, talking about how we think it was a misstep and a step in the wrong direction, was how they changed, you know, with Corpus Railjack, that they started integrating more normal Warframe missions in Railjack gameplay. So they basically tell people like, oh, no, don't worry about it. You can play these Railjack missions, but you don't actually have to play Railjack. No, you can play normal Warframe. See? And that's a sort of way of like trying to get people into Railjack, but the actual Railjack portion of the mission is so small. It's so teeny tiny. It's over so fast, most people don't even notice it. So it's not giving people like a good impression of Railjack, of what they like sort of want Railjack to be. And it's so sad, because they created these gorgeous environments, and like I love this the star chart and just how these Proxima regions look and all of that. There's a lot of love crafting all of this, but then they couldn't get people to play it, and they tried a couple of different things. And I feel like the Ash and Oberon thing is the worst attempt at this, where it's like literally forcing you to play 20 minutes of Railjack defense if you want this Warframe. And it's so half-hearted, right? They just pick these old Warframes that have been in the game forever and they're not really in high demand. And with Oberon, you just farmed him passively by killing Eximus enemies, which meant that he was actually like really new player friendly. A lot of new players got Oberon very early, just got him. If you play the game for long enough, you killed enough Eximus enemies, eventually you got him. And for a lot of people, like, Oberon was the first sort of support Warframe you got. Way before you got stuff like Trinity, way before you got stuff like Nova, you got Oberon. And Oberon can do some cool stuff that the starter Warframes can't do, right? He's got... he got Thermal Thunder, if you're me and you use the helmet system. But in his base kit, right, he's got some cool stuff. He's got radiation damage and radiation procs, which is fun to like start do some team damage, and actually pretty good single target damage if you can use it for that. He's got armor stripping. He's got healing. He's got debuffs to enemies. It's sort of cool. It's sort of cool and different. And for a lot of players, it's like their first sort of taste at playing a support Warframe. But, you know, obviously he's old. He's been in the game forever. They've designed a lot of other Warframes since then that are better than Oberon at like sort of doing what he does when it comes to like his armor stripping. It's super energy costly and it's not that efficient, so you have to have like a stupidly high ability strength to make it work. Whereas there are other Warframes where it's just like, hey, click a button, all the armor gone. And now, especially with like the new focus system and the new focus schools, you can use your operator to just wipe out enemy defenses as well. But for a new player, for a brand new player just starting out, Oberon is actually pretty relevant, and he can do some cool stuff, and he can teach a player like sort of new mechanics and stuff. So it was much better to have him in a spot where he was accessible to new players. Instead, they throw him in here to sort of just like, they take something that they don't really care about anyway, and it's old and it's been in the game forever, and it's like, yeah, no one gives a shit, who cares? And then they just sort of put it in like these drop tables for Railjack as a sort, I don't know, sort of last ditch attempt at trying to get people to play it. I don't know. Like, Railjack is fun, but when it comes to just how to promote Railjack and how to get people excited about Railjack and stuff like that, there's been so many missteps and so many weird choices. I love Voidstorms. Voidstorms is one of the smartest things they've done it, because everyone loves relic missions and everyone plays relic missions as it is, and doing Railjack relic missions, that was a super good idea. It is a great idea, it works. And they made the rewards really chunky as well. Lots of credits, lots of endo, lots of cool stuff. You really feel rewarded for playing them. That's smart, that's good, I like that. I think they should do Railjack sorties. I've talked about that before, because everyone plays sorties. So if you have a normal sortie and you also have a Railjack sortie, hey, that's how you get people to play Railjack, okay? And then they get to see all of these cool new areas. They get to see like the fucking ice mines, and they get to experience the dog fighting and like Grenier skirmish missions and stuff like that. Do sorties, man. Just do sorties. It's gonna work. Railjack sorties. People are gonna love it. But I digress. Now it seems they're moving away from that. Okay, they're taking a step back, realize that like putting Ash and Oberon in Railjack that way, it didn't work. It didn't make people excited about Railjack. It made people annoyed about Railjack, and it made some kind of old Warframes just very, very hard to get for no real good reason. So I kind of like this as a first step, because that's what it is. It's a first step, reverting some poor decisions And it might be indicative of a design philosophy or creative philosophy of like maybe... It's just... If we can reach a point where we don't just focus on the new thing all the time, gotta do the new, and when it comes to old stuff, there's these sort of like kind of not very well thought through half measures to sort of like try to drive engagement to get people to interact with it. If that's sort of like a first step of moving away from that, then that's positive. I think that is probably the direction the game should go in, at least for now. Then when it comes to, you know, always with live service games, they old players drop off. That's just the name of the game. Very few people stick around and play the same game for 10 years, so old players are always going to be dropping off, and they need to be replaced with new players for the game to stay alive. So, like, I understand that. I understand that you do have to focus on the new, and you do have to create new stuff and find new players and get new players and get new people to want to check out Warframe. So there's this balance of like how much effort do you put toward going back and tinkering on the old versus how much effort do you put into only like spitting out new ideas all the time and then not really worry too much about how it functions together with the old and just, you know, maybe there's been before too much focus on the new, and if it doesn't work, you just say, fuck it, who cares? It didn't work, let's just make something new again anyway. Maybe there needs to be more focus on just going back and fixing some of these half measures and some of these things that didn't really work out the way we had hoped they would. And that seems to be what they're doing, at least if I'm extrapolating here, right? Maybe I'm making some bold claims and some pretty hefty speculation based on like a little hotfix. But I'm just saying, it feels like I agree that it feels like they're listening to community feedback with these changes, because this is something that the community has talked about a lot and wanted to have changed. So definitely that. But in the deeper sense, if you look at it from like a game development or like a sort of creative mindset, the fact that they are willing to go back and revert some changes that weren't successful, maybe that means that in the next step we'll go even further. We'll see if maybe they'll go at it again, right? Take out that toolbox and start tinkering on it again. See if they are gonna work on figuring out new ways of getting people excited about Railjack, right? And getting people to want to play Railjack. They built this entire thing. It's just a little button up here, people. There are so many players. I talk to players, like, I have a Reddit account. I talk to people, like, I engage in the subreddit. And there are still people to this day who are like, what's Railjack? What's Voidstorms? And as it is, like, there's nothing in the game. The game doesn't tell you to go and do Rising Tide. The game doesn't really teach you a whole lot about how Railjack works. It's like it's just been this abandoned project, and it's so big. If you go over here, it's an entire star chart with brand new mission types and a brand new idea for what Warframe could be, and it's just lying here and just collecting dust. And I don't want them to give up on Railjack. I want them to, if it's possible, revitalize it. If it's possible, go back to the drawing board and see if we can figure out new ways of getting people excited about Railjack, because they do have something there. They have something with Railjack, and I'm sad that it's kind of not a priority anymore and not anything they're looking at. But hey, small hotfix. People are still away on vacation. They haven't really started to like really grind down on the dev cycle for new stuff yet. That's gonna come in like the coming weeks, the coming months. But I'm hoping, based on what we're seeing here, I'm hoping that we're gonna see more of this. I'm hoping that this is indicative of something bigger. That it is indicative of a shift in design philosophy. Which is what I want. They have new management. They have a new creative director. They're gonna build a new team. I want new. I don't want this to be some sort of legacy project where it's just like, oh, we have to continue down this path that Steve started us on. No, I actually want them to be a bit more brave and say that like we are a new team, we have a new philosophy, we have a new direction we want to take the game in. I think that would be cool. I think that's what they should be doing. So that is a long rant about a small hotfix. Thank you for listening, people. I spin off on tangents, but thank you for listening. As always, love your comments. Love to hear what you think about this. Am I reading the situation wrong, or am I just making a mountain out of a molehill or something? What do you think? Do you think? Obviously, everyone's happy about Ash being farmable again, and everyone's happy about the Voidplumes, I bet. But when it comes to like these deeper things, am I way off base here, or what are your thoughts? Let me hear your thoughts. All right, that's the video, people. Thank you for listening, as always, and I will see you again tomorrow for something completely different.